Alright folks, how's it going? It's Des Catties in the shed. So in this sort of video, I want to talk about my sort of my couple of sleeping systems and my preferences to what I actually use. Okay, so stay tuned. Yeah, so I thought what I'd do is I'd just give my threepenny pence worth into what I use and sort of why I use them. Hopefully it won't be a video that just rambles on about me talking stuff, good or bad to some of you. Right, so I've sort of managed to, now I've managed to sort of get myself to a point where I've got gear that I use for sort of like late spring, summer and into autumn. I mean, even at the moment now, it's still quite warm. We're in October now, and I still can get away with going sort of like the ultra light if I want to. And then obviously as the weather starts changing and it gets colder, I can then obviously change over to something that's more warmer to sleep in. Now, obviously with, it's quite a big subject. It can be quite technical at times. I think people talking about what they sleep on, what they sleep in, what they sleep under, blah 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 blah, and stuff that I've been using, I find it's been working for me. I think everyone's different. I think some people are okay to say use a bivvy bag, they don't get condensation in there, and then there's other people that do get a lot of condensation in their bivvy bags, for example. All right, now if we look sort of at my kind of ultralight setup, I've done it this year where when it was really warm in the evening, I was able to get away with just wearing a padded gilet, even if I didn't even need to wear that, and a pair of padded trousers, and they kept me warm, really suffice really for sort of like during those months. I've also got, for example, in here now, in this biker bag, I've got my Helicontech Swagman. Now these are not for everyone. I've slept in this in sort of January, February times. Admittedly, I'd have to sleep in all my clothes, which some people don't like to do. I've got to admit, when I'm sort of during the colder months, I actually like to strip off. I like to strip off at least from the waist down, and sort of, and do it that way, take off my socks. I mean, admittedly, here in the UK, the winters, even when the winters they're more kind of damp and wet and everything else, rather than they are sort of, do we get the snow? We do. We might, sort of blink and it's gone. And our sort of cold temperatures maybe go down to sort of -6, maybe -8. That's about it really. And even when you think about it, when the temperature gets down to -6, the sort of moisture level drops off anyway, and it's kind of like a dry cold. All right, so anyway, I've got my Helicontech Swagman in here. All right, I've also got my inflatable mattress. This is a Highlander one. These, again, they cause a real lot of debate with people about who likes to use inflatable mattresses and who doesn't. The reason why I don't use a normal roll mat is just the fact that it's too bulky. I have tried to trim them down and cut them down a little bit more and see if I can get away with using something a bit smaller. This one, for example, this is an old Thermarest, sort of the egg tray type mat. Now I've cut this down, and this literally just covers the bottom of my neck to sort of like where my backside is. All right, and yeah, it's not too bad, but it's still a bit bulky. It still sticks out and everything else. I might give it a try at some point again, see if it works, but having the full length one and everything else plays with me, and I don't really like it. So that's why I've kind of used an inflatable mattress. Yes, you are governed by thorns, sharp stones and all that sort of stuff, but that's the kind of chance I take. But then going from there then to using a ground sheet, what I normally do, I've got, for example, in my real lightweight kit, the ultralight stuff, I've got my Rad ground sheet, and that works fine. Again, it gives me a little bit more protection against the against thorns, blackberry thorns and all that sort of stuff, which works okay. Okay, and then so as I say, I've got the mat. The reason why I use this mat as well, this one in particular as well, because it's small. It is very small compared to, say, my one that I use in the winter, which would be my Decathlon one. Now, in sort of the grand scheme of things, the top one, obviously, the Decathlon is slightly better, but then that goes into a slightly bigger pack. I mean, obviously, as well, you've got to be looking at, excuse me, what kind of space you've got in your carrying system that you're using. You know, whether you go with a sleeping bag year round and all the rest of it. Some people like to use, during the winter months, they like to use the Army Arctic bags, in particular the British Army ones. But for me, I used to call them a caravan sleeping bag because it was almost like a bag you never wanted to get out of, especially when it comes to relieving people on duties at 2-3 o'clock in the morning when it's cold outside and everything else, and all you want to do is just snuggle up nice and warm in your sleeping bag. But regardless of that, you know, these are all sort of thoughts you have to ponder over when obviously you're working out your own setup. Now, I dare say there's hundreds of you, thousands of you out there now that whoever's watching the video will have got their own system, got it down to a T, and it works fine, and this is at the point where you click off the video and go somewhere else, or you find it, you know, that there is some little bit of interest there and you carry on watching it. Maybe you're a little bit newer to the subject than people that are than other folk, for example. Alright, so I've got my inflatable mat. I've got an inflatable mattress which I use with both kits, either this one and then obviously the Decathlon one, which you see for summer, as I say. And I will push it at times and use the Helicontex Swagman. I've got pillows. This one was gifted to me by my mate Chris, Wilderness Nomad. He gave me this one some years ago because, again, not everyone's really likes using sort of pillows as well. They, you know, some people like to use their jackets, and I've done that, and you know, I like a pillow, I've got to admit. Say, for example, this is my Cedar Summit one. You'll see this a lot. This will go into kind of my winter kit now, and then this one, because it's even thinner and smaller, this will go into my ultralight kit. But I like somewhere to obviously just rest my head. That's just me personally. All right, but again, it's up to you, you know, as individuals, as it were. All right, so that really is my sleep system, sort of like, you know, in regards to something to sleep on, something to sleep in. Okay. I mean, I kind of take it in two. I mean, some people say just the inflatable mattress, or a ground, you know, a roll mat, or whatever it is you're using, an inflatable mat, an insulated mat, for example. But I also take into account as well having a ground sheet. Now, with the ground sheet as well, during the winter months, obviously, and the summer, with the difference between the two, I will use the summer one. I've got the Rab one. And then as the weather starts changing, it's get colder. If you do follow my channel, you'll see me using this one as well. And this is one of the silver ones. This is quite thick, this one. And again, I use that in my sort of Mystery Ranch pack, because it's obviously a bigger pack to take up a little bit more space. But that's me. I've planned for that. All right. So, yeah. Well, okay, bear with me a second. Now, again, in my ultralight kit, I keep that that bivy bag by Sol. I like the fact that it's just nice and compact and everything else. I've got one of them Snug Pack Special Forces one, which I've been so reluctant to use. I've been after one for so many years. Finally got one extremely cheap off a friend, and I've just never got to use it. And it's even smaller, but I kind of just like this one. This one goes, I like this one. It's just my personal choice. So, Helicontex Swagman for kind of the summer, late spring, autumn. But then again, as I say, I've pushed it when I've done little challenges with Barney and Wilderness Nomad. We've kind of pushed it, and John as well, and we've kind of pushed it, and you know, we've done sort of camps and that sort of stuff with something really sort of lightweight and thin, if you like. But then my other sleeping system that I like to use, or sleeping bag that I like to use, especially as the weather starts changing, is this one. Now, this is just a Life Venture compression stuff sack that my mate Mick gave me, and in here is my Rab 700 sleeping bag. Now, that sleeping bag is a down, and I absolutely love it. I don't sleep with it in a bivy bag, just in case for condensation and stuff like that, whereas I would push it in the winter months and use the Helicontex Swagman with a bivy bag, just to give me that extra little bit of protection. All right, but with the sleeping bag, I kind of, for me personally, I don't like to sleep with my down sleeping bag in a bivy bag. That's just me. Okay, but obviously, because this is a bigger item, this will go into a bigger rucksack. When you think about it, you know, most of your pack is, during the winter months especially, can be taken up with a lot of your sleeping system, because obviously you want a good night's sleep. There's nothing worse than sort of waking up and, you know, just I don't know about you, but if I don't get much sleep, I'm a bitch, you know, and that's all there is to it. I'm a human being. So it just, you know, it's nice to have that sort of, it's nice to get a good night's sleep, isn't it, when you're out in the woods, when you've been grafting all day, chopping wood and all the rest of it. I mean, if you're sort of practicing survival skills and, you know, all that sort of stuff, then that's a totally different ball game. That's the different context. But for you know, for just you going out, sort of camping with your friends, and all the rest of it, or like-minded people, the last thing you want is to have a really poor sort of sleeping system. And I've had this discussion with other people as well, where they're trying to change up kit, where they're using over quilts, and I've never had an over quilt. I've seen some of them, some of the lads that Chris, for example, Chris W's got one, and he's one, and he sort of rates them quite well, but he's gone for a few to realise, you know, he's had to spend the money to then work out which one is best for him as an individual. So as much as me going, yeah, get yourself a Rab 700 sleeping bag, you might get one and go, what a load of, you know. So, you know, I'm just talking this, just, you know, out there. So one more thing I'll say about the bivvy bags. Again, it's up to you as an individual. Okay, we're all different, you know, depending on how much we sweat, overheat, and all the rest of it. I'm a cold sleeper, I believe. My wife tells me that I don't radiate any heat when I mean, obviously I must give off some heat, but obviously not a lot. And then when I sort of, you know, when I'm, you know, sort of in bed with my wife, she radiates a hell of a lot of heat, and so does my son as well. And me and my daughter we don't seem to radiate a lot of heat. Anyway, now, while we're still on the subject of bivvy bags, you know, you've got these little sort of emergency bivvy bags that you got, you know, again, these are even worse than a Gore-Tex bivvy bag, aren't they? I mean, they are really just for emergency. You know, you'd use them on a, you know, you wouldn't just get in one of these and stay in it all night. You would obviously stay in it for maybe an hour or so, or even just till it starts to condensate and then get out, sit next to the fire, or whatever you want to do. But these, you know, don't be relying on these. I personally don't think as part of your sleeping system. I mean, it would be so great if they could bring out some sort of bivvy bag that was packing down this small. Probably the Snug Pack SF one probably ain't far off it, but you know, it's that one's a bit of a, you know, that's the sort of one that goes in your jacket pocket and you use it just for any emergencies, I think. So something to sleep under, you know. I mean, who am I? What do I use? I've used a poncho before now. I've used ones by Helicontex. Yeah, Helicontex one. I've also got the this is the Dutch Army one. Now, size wise, I mean, obviously this has got its own bag built onto it, so it literally just packs down into its own bag. Helicontex one, look at the size, totally different. Now, I used to like taking this with me, mainly out for the day. I have slept under these, but I'm quite a tall chap. I'm 6'3", so under a poncho, you know, I'm going to be proper crunched up under it. Yeah, in an emergency, fair enough. You know, that's just one of them things. But as an, you know, if I was to be using, I was almost dipping my toe in to see if I could get away with using this, because it packs down quite small. But you know, let's be real about it. You know, if it really does chuck it down with rain, you know, with that even set up as a plough point, it's not. You know, it doesn't give me enough sufficient shelter at the height that I am. All right, now for you sort of people that maybe sort of haven't got an issue with height and probably get away with using a Helicontex poncho and stuff like that. But again, that's up to you. You know, these Dutch Army ones are slightly bigger. So again, they're all right, pretty cheap as well, I mean, for what they are. And then the other one I've got, which is a poncho, and oh no, that's not, wrong one, I do apologise, is the One Wind one. Not affiliated with them at all. Chris W's got one, and again, you've seen it in a video sort of back where this is just like a small shelter. It's a poncho, and then obviously it turns into quite a spacious shelter. I think it's quite, I mean, when I tried it out lengthwise, I can get under it, so it's actually not too bad. Comes with comes with its pegs and all that sort of stuff, and I keep all that together in here, and that normally comes with me either in my ultralight kit now, or it'll be just as something what I take out for the day and use just as a shelter, you know, in case it rains and all the rest of it. And the other one that I like to go to is my DD tarp. This is the ultralight one. Is it ultralight or superlight? It's the superlight tarp, 3x3. Obviously the pack's down nice and small. I've got pegs in there. I've got a what else I've got in there? I've got a jungle toggle in there as well if I want to set it up as a plough point, and then I've also got a ridge line as well if I want to set it up as a, you know, as a ridge line setup. All right, and that's basically what I've got there. On my last trip out, I used I used the DD top. This is just a normal camouflage one, but obviously, you know, when you look at size, when you contrast size and stuff like that now, in particular with the super light one, you know, you can see it's a lot bigger, isn't it? So, you know, but again, whatever whatever floats your boat. Right, now pegs and stuff like that. When I was out a few weeks ago, I camped at my local spot. Chris W and Gary come over, and when I was at the wilderness gathering this year, I bought some of these pegs by Robins. There was 6 of them, absolutely lightweight as anything, like an aluminium peg. But what happened was, when I went to tap it into the ground, yeah, it has been quite dry, but one of these pegs was almost sort of like, when I managed to get it back out of the ground, was all skew with. Straightened it up, no problem, and I was kind of almost going to chuck these away because I just felt they were a waste of time. But when I was out last weekend, and we had quite strong winds, sort of 40 plus, 50 plus mile an hour winds, and the woodland that I was camping in, and the wind was coming straight across, and I used all 6 of these pegs on a plough point setup, and these pegs didn't come out of the ground, so they kind of won with me. I was quite a bit more impressed by them on that occasion, so I'll stick with them for now. I'll keep using them, you know, blah blah blah. Other pegs that I've got the plastic ones. I normally carry between 4 and 6 of them. These when I bought these were like cheap as chips. I keep a couple of the little aluminium sort of pegs in there as well, and they are just for one of the ground sheets, just to peg it out if I want to sort of be a little bit more organised rather than just folding it over and sticking it on the ground. It makes sense. As I say, I've got all my shelter systems have got, you know, they've got jungle toggles in now, they've got a ridge line and so on and so forth, but I then do carry just a little, this is one of Dave Fry's pouches, and you will have seen it in the videos, and then in there I keep like sort of spare sort of toggle systems, really, just to sort of, if I want to rig up my shelter some weird and wonderful way, but most of the time I tend to go for a plough point anyway. Alright, so let's stick them back in now. So have I missed anything? I don't think so. Now I don't want to sort of, it's had nothing to do with, I'm just sort of sharing some of my personal, you know, some of my personal sort of experience, knowledge, if you like, on the systems that I use. It might work for you, it might not. I mean, some people will really get hung up about R ratings when it comes to inflatable mats and stuff like that, and really I don't take any notice of it whatsoever. I've got no idea what my Decathlon one is, I've got no idea what that one by Highlander is. I just make sure that I have a ground sheet on the bottom. In the summer, obviously stands to reason, if the ground's all dry you don't really need anything like that, but then as the weather starts chilling out, I've got that silver mat, that'll go down, and then, you know, I'll just worry about it then. As long as it's keeping me off the floor, then I'm quite happy with that. What I'm doing actually with one of my ground sheets, because it's actually slipping a little bit on that foil one, is I've got a tube of silicone, and I'm going to dab some silicone on the underneath of it, just some clear silicone, put little blobs all the way along it, and then hopefully that'll grip the ground sheet a bit better, because it's not always the case when you can get something just flat as a golf course to sleep on. It might be that some of your floor's got a slight little dip in it, or whatever, and then you go sliding all over the place and wake up in the morning all scrunched up in one area of under your shelter. So thank you for watching. Please share your comments down below. I love that video. I'll bring it up again, was the one where I spoke about the tourniquets. And what was great, I had people that maybe watch my channel but don't normally comment. These were totally new people, or maybe they were just dipping their toe in and out, I really don't know. But if they're sort of regular viewers for the channel, it was lovely to get some conversation from new people that don't normally comment to the channel now, albeit that I didn't actually reply to everyone because there was quite a lot of comments. But what I did do was I actually liked all the information that some people were giving across. There was the odd sort of one where it was, no, they're a waste of money, and that was it, just left it at that. But, you know, sort of, all right, if they're a waste of money, then please explain your reason why you think they're a waste of money, because other people do. When you look at a lot of the other comments, obviously people using chainsaws and, you know, throwing axes around and knives and all the rest of it, you know, it could come a time when, you know, you may need to use one. Anyway, so I appreciate that. All right, so thanks for watching, folks. I'm going to enjoy my my herbal tea right now, and I'll see you on the next one. Look forward to your comments. Laters.